Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Welcome to the show, Mindshifters Radio, where Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice are celebrating 7 years of marriage and 7 years of a commitment to take the tools of forgiveness to every mind, heart, and being on the planet, regardless of their ability to pay. And they do that with their travel and their workshops, which they present without demand for payment, and with their extensive website, www.whyagain.com, where they provide a host of free materials to teach people how to do the process of forgiveness, which is an ancient Aramaic concept and a tool and a technology for removing anything from the mind-body energy system which is less than love, which leaves us with our true essence, which is that energy of creation, the energy of God, the energy of love itself, and that's what each of us are made of, and that's what we're intended to house and produce and give away. And I think I hear somebody else on the line. Who's with us?
You do. You've got Michael. Not sure whether you got Jeannie yet or not, but you've got me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Awesome.
Having a rainy day in Illinois.
Oh, really? Well, it's sunny with a few clouds overhead here, but looking like a pretty nice day in Nassau, Bahamas.
Wonderful.
It is. Have you said anything about Memorial Day yet?
Nope.
Well, we've been doing this one for a year. We just passed the 1 year mark of honoring those who've been forced to engage in the insanity of war on planet Earth, and our invitation is for everybody that listens to the show to become part of the solution that changes the dilemma of war on the planet. And the way that we invite everyone to participate in that is that today and every day, if you would, we invite you to just take one situation, one issue, one place where your mind is really proving to you and showing to you that somebody else is the problem in your life, and if they just changed, you wouldn't have to feel this way. And ask yourself a question. Have I been through this before? And is it possible that my mind is telling me a lie, that I'm experiencing this because of them, and that I could change this state that I'm experiencing inside of me? And once you start sincerely asking yourself that question, you'll start to be shown that your mind is a liar. It's not telling you the truth. And then you can engage in the process of forgiveness. And as Dr. Tim was saying, the process of forgiveness that we're talking about is that of going inside yourself and removing the very capacity for any form of hostility or fear. And what you're left with is a human life. And we define a human life very simply. Just hold a newborn child, you know exactly what a human life is. And so to be restored to that, all you have to do is remove everything unlike your human life, every form of hostility or fear that has come through to you through all of your experiences and all of your generations, and be willing to remove it and return to the experience of love 24/7, 365. When we can get a critical mass, a core group of people who will actually do that, who will actually become responsible, then what we're going to find is the reason for war is going to begin to dissolve. And as it dissolves, so will the wars. So will all the games that go on and all the stories that are told to keep us believing that war is a necessity. And if you'd like to engage in that process, if you'd like to join us in that effort, and I think it's a very worthy one, then what we ask you to do, if you haven't started yet, is to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. It's about the sixth link down. Click on that link. Once you're in there, the first 7 links will be the forgiveness story. Personal guidance through the forgiveness process in several forms, the worksheet, a written explanation of it, and you're on go. And so we invite you to participate in that process in order to bring a change to the dynamic of war on planet Earth. And so, Dr. Tim, do you have anything to share with us at this point?
Well, I was thinking about something that came up in the Tuesday group. It was the concept of, we were tapping into it yesterday when we talked, the idea that each time we approach a deep truth, something that's going to challenge the way we've looked at the world before and ask us to observe things differently, the only way to get what is there, what's available, is to have 2 factors active. And they both have to be there, so it's not a 1 or a 2. But those 2 factors are, I need to be exposed to that material multiple times, and I need to have the condition in my mind, the question in my mind that says, is it possible that what I believe I know is either only partially true or completely false? And if I don't have those 2 factors in mind when I'm approaching any new material, no matter how powerful or how deep the truth is, or how dramatically it might improve my life or my perception, I'm not going to learn anything from it. And herein lies one of the great difficulties with most of the formal religions, because they teach people what it is that they need to believe and what they need to recite back and what they need to believe for membership in that group. And in that very act of saying, okay, I agree to believe what you're teaching me, you've violated one of the primary requirements for being able to learn anything new. That you're not going into the interaction with the material with the question about the possibility that what I already know or what I believe I know is only partially true or completely false. And it doesn't matter how powerful the truth is. If I walk up to it and say, I already know what I know, and anything you're going to tell me that doesn't completely agree with what I already know is worthless. Well, then there's no opening. There's no questioning. There's no room for growth. There's no room for direct observation. And I might as well be walking around with earplugs in my ears and blinders on.
Right, and of course the reason for that is because the way the mind works, once the what we call the 9-bit mind, there's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of information you can get into conscious awareness is 9 bits. Once that 9-bit mind's full, there's no room for anything else. It's interesting that many of the groups who purport to have the truth enforce it in people's minds with such viciousness that they don't even dare ask the question. They won't even go near a question. I remember a family that I worked with down in Alabama. This goes back about 20 years ago, and they had a family friends, and there was a 12-year-old boy in the family, and this 12-year-old boy at church was asking questions, and his preacher went to his parents and said, there's something wrong with this kid. And they ended up taking him to a psychiatrist because he was asking questions in church. He didn't just, check his mind at the door and accept everything he was being told. He was asking questions. And they actually did electroshock on him. They call electroshock therapy, which to me is an oxymoron. They actually did electroshock on a 12-year-old boy for asking questions in church. It's like, you're facing a lie when somebody has to enforce the so-called truth with or threatens to throw you out should you not just accept everything with hook, line, and sinker. And, of course, with this work, one of our first requests is always don't believe a word I've got to say. go check out the experience for yourself. And, the truth is that anything we can say of words isn't really true. We can dance around it, but the unfathomable, unvarnished truth, we haven't even come close to approaching and developing a language for. So I'm certainly in agreement with you on that one, Dr. Tim. And Jeannie tells us we've got a call. Oh, go ahead.
All right. Well, no. Let's go to the caller.
Okay. Go for it. Jeannie, who have we got? Oh, we lost them. So go ahead, Dr. Tim.
I was just going to say,
by the way, if you have a question, 646-200-4169 is our calling number. We'd love to hear your question, your thoughts.
I was just going to say that when I was being raised in grade school in the Catholic Church, going to a Catholic school, we were told not to read the Bible. And when I asked, why aren't we supposed to read the Bible, the answer was, we're probably going to misinterpret it and get it wrong. And so our job is to rely upon the priests who have studied it and know what it says and just listen to them. If we have a question, we ask the priest and they will tell us.
Right.
And the complications that brought, and I'm not offering that there wouldn't be complications if a lot of different individuals within the church read the Bible and interpreted it differently. Of course that brings up complications. But in a loving atmosphere of exploration and observation and learning, that usually leads to growth. But it's not easy. Sometimes life is a little bit messy. But the difficulties that arose when we had to rely upon the priests, and one time after another we would go to a priest who was supposed to have the answer for us, and we would get a slightly different or dramatically different answer, there were still big problems. Still big problems. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think that it's a powerful piece of any learning, any true learning, and especially if I'm going to challenge myself to grow beyond where I am, that I need to be open to the fact that what I already think I know is either only partially true or completely false. And it's been a huge piece of growth for me in the past couple decades, and it continues to be a key to my further advancement.
Absolutely. And, the corollary of that is to love the truth enough to let go of anything else that interferes with it. I love what Winston Churchill said about truth. He said, most people, if they bumped into truth on the street, would get up and brush themselves off and rush away. Because we love our opinions, we love our stories, we love our clubs, love our doctrines, but none of us experience truth. And we think that something because somebody else formulated it as a doctrine or a dogma, that then had the experience that the words were treated to. If you go back to the Man Yeshua, if you go back to basically every religion on the planet, those religions were about having a direct experience. Back to our question, our definition of a newborn child, and named Yeshua, be a child. So he's saying, have an experience. Have an experience. Don't have somebody sit there and spoon feed you words as though words were an experience. Words can be a good roadmap to get to an experience, but you've got to do with the word. Like, for instance, have rachma in the Aramaic. The word was rachma. The Greeks translated it as Greek. The Greeks translated it as love. But what that word says in Aramaic is that you are responsible for maintaining a condition in your mind that is a gateway for human life. The word was not love God, neighbor, and self. The word was have rachma for the creator and neighbor so as to maintain self. And so it was about having an experience, not having somebody else who listened to somebody else who listened to somebody else who listened to somebody else who said this is what is true. Because if your truth is leading to a direct experience of a human life, of the active presence of love, then your truth isn't worth the powder to blow it to everywhere.
Well, and I don't know if you're, I heard everything you were saying, or not everything, but I understood everything you were saying, Michael, but you were breaking up quite a bit there. So if there's a way to have a slightly different position so you're not crackling or breaking up.
Is that any better?
Yes, that is, but it's sentence for sentence, so I'll let you know if it happens again. The thing I was going to say is that Guy Finley talks about the importance of different tools for helping people make the progress they need to make. And the difficulty is that if we learn of somebody who's made progress, who's become, more loving, or if we think they've become enlightened or they've become a true master, our tendency is to mimic what they did without understanding the essence of why they were doing it. So, for instance, at one point, Guy Finley says earlier in his career, he ended up duct taping his mouth because he needed the experience of a silent retreat or talking less or whatever. And so when people find out that, they say, oh, so that's what I need to do. I need to put duct tape over my mouth. Well, if you don't understand the nature of the person who Guy Finley was at that time and his propensity to use talk to escape or to avoid issues, then just putting duct tape over your mouth isn't very helpful. As a matter of fact, if you get somebody who's usually very quiet and introverted and they put duct tape over their mouth, what they need to might be to talk more and to engage more with people. So there's a deep need to understand who the person is who's doing whatever the ritual is or whatever the behavior is, and what need they're trying to fill with it, rather than just automatically mimicking what somebody else did. Someone was talking to me about listening to a preacher who said, what you really need to do is just act like Jesus acted. You need to just fake it. If you're not feeling loving towards somebody, just fake it and act as though you love them and act as if you're loving. And you have all these negative feelings, just ignore them and pretend you're loving toward that person until you grow into it. Well, there's a huge section of denial and suppression there that's being promoted by this minister. Don't dig into what is causing the anger and fear within you. Simply deny it and try to pretend you're acting, or deny it and pretend that you love the person, so you act lovingly toward them, even though you're feeling like you'd rather run away or punch them. Michael, I'll let you talk a little bit about what that does inside the energy system if you take that approach.
Well, the thought occurs to me that, acting like it when it's not there and not doing anything else to achieve the experience, but attempting to act like it.
Michael, you're breaking up. Can you try that again?
Try again. Is that any better?
Yeah, just try that sentence again. Your thought is that if you're acting as if...
So if you're acting as if, and you're not doing anything to create the as-if experience, then you're never going to experience what it is you're trying to get to. Imagine a woman who says, I really want to be pregnant. I really want to have a baby. Well, there's certain things she's going to have to do in order to have the experience of having a baby. If she acts as if she's pregnant and never does any of those things, she's never going to give the experience of having a child. There's certain things she has to do to become pregnant with that experience. And if you look at all of the instructions that the teachers gave, they were leading us toward and attempting to get us pregnant, ready to deliver an experience, to have an experience, not to talk to somebody who has never had the experience, has a great head trip about having the experience, and thinks they can explain it. And now that somebody who can explain it, you can pretend you've got the experience. I'm breaking up again?
Just a little.
Are you?
Right there at
Just
the
a
end.
little? Okay.
I could understand what you were saying, though.
Good. Well, a little bit of technical difficulty being here in the Bahamas and calling in Skype, but fortunately, the technology world is as amazing as it is, and we are this Dr. Tim in Chicago, and here we are in the Bahamas, and wherever you folks are, I don't know. We've got people in the Middle East, we've got people in Asia, in China. Gee. It's awesome. Awesome to be able to speak to each and every one of you and to share what we have to share with you. And Jeannie tells me we have a caller. So, Jeannie, what's our code 413? You are welcome to the show. Give us a name and where you're from.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Dr. Tim. This is Linda calling from Massachusetts. How are you?
Hi there, young lady. Good to hear your voice. How are you two doing?
Great. Thank you. I wanted to just say how much I enjoyed hearing Michael and Margaret, my Palm Coast One little buddies, big buddies. So it was really great to hear their voices. And I wanted to share a little bit about the positive things that I've been experiencing with the worksheets. I started doing them in November with Julie's tutelage, which was really helpful to pattern me with the worksheet.
Right.
We worked for about 6 or 8 weeks together. Well, we still work together, but formally we worked for a while together. And then around right after Christmas, my pregnant daughter had this kidney stone issue that was happening with her. And this went on for this whole drama went on for about a week, and I was feeling really stressed by it, and I was working on worksheets. And I noticed, and a friend pointed out, and so did Julie, that I was feeling very responsible for what was going on with my daughter. Like it was as if she was 3 years old again, and it was totally up to me to make sure she was out of this. And, the options for her were she might have to have surgery where they insert this tube in her back, and it was just not a pretty picture. So and in the height of it, I was just feeling really wiped out, and so Julie said, I called her one night and I said, I just need some support. So she said, all right, let's just do some worksheets. I'm getting out of breath here. So we did some worksheets together. And during that day, I had done a lot of worksheets on releasing the energy that I was feeling of responsibility, and releasing my daughter, just doing, at the last step I would do release work and just sort of release her to the love being of the omniscient love that she is. And
let me ask a quick question, Linda. Linda?
Yes?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Were you feeling responsible was going on with your daughter, or were you feeling like you were blamed?
I couldn't hear you, Michael. It broke up. I heard you say, when you're going through this experience with your daughter, did you feel like what?
Was it a thought that you were responsible, or was it a thought that you were to blame?
I heard the first part. You asked me if the thought I was having was that I was responsible, but then the second
you were
part
to
broke
blame.
up. Oh.
Or that you were to blame.
I felt, I would say it was more of I was responsible for her well-being.
Right.
Maybe, I'll look at that too. But I just felt like it was my responsibility to get her better. She had to not go through the surgery. She had to just be better. So I went through a lot of grief things during the day and doing the worksheets. Julie and I worked together. Okay, so the next morning, so I was feeling good after. I went to bed and I said, you know what? God is the only presence, the only power, the only activity. I'm just going to stay with that. So I went to bed and the phone rang at 4 a.m. And my daughter called and said, hi, Mom, I'm in the hospital again. And I just want to let you know that they had me all prepped for surgery. And I went to the bathroom one last time and boom, the kidney stone dropped into the bucket. So I'm on my way home. Yeah. So I just thought it was just amazing. And And then a couple other things that have happened since the intensive is our relationship, my husband and myself, who was also there, just reached a new level of tenderness and authenticity. I feel like I can be more, whatever is going on for me at the moment, I can be really honest with it, not pretend. Because one of my goals is I need to be nice, I need to be in control, and there's another one that escapes me. But anyway, a lot of them I notice are playing out. But that has been my ability to be able to be more present in whatever is coming up for me. And particularly like this weekend, we had something come up where he said something that was a little bit critical. It wasn't the most supportive thing he could have said. And I said to him, wow, I don't feel very supported by that remark. And so then he kind of got up a little bit, and he walked out of the room, and I just felt it was almost like the Tasmanian devil just incarnated, and I just felt this spinning and zipping, and I said, okay, I'm going to go into the bedroom, and I shut the door, and all this grief came up, and this rage came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I wanted to just go out there and tear him apart verbally. It was just really so powerful, and then all of a sudden I started breathing, and I started crying and breathing, and then all of a sudden it was lovingly, gently, and with respect. Lovingly, gently, and with respect kept coming up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that's right, that's it, that's what I want to be, that's what I want to experience, and that's what I want to give. And I just felt that the training, and I usually do that at the end of every worksheet. I somehow incorporate that either in support of myself or whoever I'm doing or whatever I'm doing the worksheet about. And I just felt like that support just came right up to meet me in that moment and really helped me so much. And then I walked out into the kitchen to finish doing what I was doing, and my husband walked in at the same time and said, I would like to do a love exchange with you.
Awesome.
We did it. I was doing it through tears, and I was just, and he, I just said, I really appreciate this because, and so he helped process me a little bit about some of the stuff that got triggered, when he said that. So that was really, really powerful. And then one other thing I'll mention is that last weekend, money seems to be like an issue that has been following the lack of through my life, and so that's another thing, a list that I have a list of things that I've got to work on, and that's one of them for worksheets. And anyway, I made a decision about we were going to go to this place for the weekend where this program was being held by the beach, and so we didn't know for sure if it was going to be happening yet, and so I called the place that I wanted to stay at, and I said, what is your cancellation policy? Well, if it's within the week, get your money back for the first night. And, of course, it was within the week. And I said, so this voice said, oh, you better do it because, you might miss out. And so I said, then the other voice was saying, yeah, well, maybe it's not going to happen. I'll lose my deposit. Oh, it's all right. So I made the reservation, and then a few days later I found out the event was not happening near there. So I had a reservation for something that I did not need. And so immediately the voice came back. The voice that said, oh, you really got to make this reservation, came back and said, oh, you idiot, what did you do? Haven't you learned by now? It was like, I see how that carbon-based memory or that mind just screws you every way you go. I mean, it's even if you take its advice, it comes back and bites you in the ass right after you do it. So, and then I went out for a walk, and I said, I did worksheets on this, of feeling of, because I said, wait a minute, I'm beating myself up here. I've been in this place so many times. I said, I want a different experience. I don't want to have this experience of beating on myself because it's just like a cycle over and over. So I did some breathing, and I did some worksheets, and so the next day the phone rang, and it was a guy at the motel who said, I just want to let you know, we never do this, but I want to at least give you a credit for, you can come anytime this summer or fall before we close for the season, and this money will be right here for you to use. And so I said, well, I thank you so much for that. And so I just, and then the whole program ended up being changed to a different venue, but it ended up being better for us anyway, as far as money and expenses and all that, because we can stay with our brother. And it just was in that moment when I could just say, wait a minute, I want to have a different reality here. It's possible to feel really good. I mean, I'm starting to really accept and believe that it is, yes, truly possible to live in delight and joy and not have to, if there's a mistake made or whatever, to have to go to that place of self-flagellation or whatever you want to call it, because it just it doesn't get me anywhere. And so those are just a few things I can think of that were very, of many little things that happened during the day. And last night I was watching your DVD, which I'm going to watch again tonight, with Ken, New Beginning, A Lesson from A Course in Miracles, where you say, tomorrow when you wake up, just decide what kind of day you want to have, and I thought, wow, I just never, I always was trained that God's supposed to do that for you. You don't know any better, so you let God do everything. Well, the problem with that over the last 25 years is that I don't really get healed that way. And nothing really seems to happen because I'm sort of waiting for something to happen. And so I did that this morning, and it felt really good, and I could just feel the energy of it. And then the challenge of not saying anything negative for an entire day. And then one other thing about that DVD was when you were talking about, you made the illustration of a farmer. If a farmer wants to raise corn, if he wants corn to grow, he doesn't plant wheat. And you said that we're in an energy field. We're in this field, and whatever we plant in our thoughts, our mind energy, is what is going to grow and what we're going to experience. So I just found that very powerful and very helpful. And it's just really helped me understand all these things I've been studying for all these years, mostly metaphysical, like Christian Science and that kind of thing, and from a theological point of view, where your work is it just encompasses everything, and it's like, wow, everything's starting to click, like little connections of how this works, which allows me to trust even more in the process, because I feel like I need my intellect to be, or whatever you call it, to be in agreement enough where it can just say, okay, I'm willing to go along with this. I'm willing to be retrained. And, of course, that's my experience. But I'm just feeling like I'm feeling more empowered, that I can actually be in charge of how my attention and my focus, where my attention is and where my focus is, and I don't have to be, pulled around by the nose like so Tim is like, just because there's thoughts in my mind, I think it's true, It's just crazy.
Well, that is pretty crazy, isn't it? And, you point out a really, really important principle here, and that is we have to stop doing what we feel like doing, because the past generational patterns will tend to come forward in certain situations and cause feelings of, like, for instance, as you mentioned with the interaction with Ken, that I felt angry, I felt like I wanted to go punch, and instead I stopped, I breathed. I didn't do what I felt like doing, because all advice from the mind that's based in hostility or fear is based in a fraud and a lie. And so, when you look at, in less than a year, you've been doing and using the tools, and to catch yourself in the middle of that powerful an emotion and say, I'm not going to do what I feel like doing, I'm going to do something different, is just, it's monumental. And something that most people in their whole lives never conceive of as possible, let alone actually do. So I acknowledge you for your work and the level you're truly working on.
I want to add that this reminds me of one of my favorite bumper stickers in the past couple of years, and it reads, "Don't believe everything you think."
Yeah, right.
And I want to add to that based on what I've just heard. Don't believe everything you think, and never believe anything you think when you're angry or fearful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And never follow the feelings of anger and fear into behavior, or you will regret it.
Right.
And in that situation with Ken, where you made a shift, you came out in a different state, and all of a sudden Ken walks in a different state as well. We're continuously doing that interplay with each other, and when we go in the downward spiral, that's when you end up with the War of the Roses. When you choose an upward spiral, you end up functioning as human beings who naturally function as love, and instead of many people have to wait 3 or 4 days to get back to a connected or loving space because they have no idea how to, or they're not willing to question and dismantle their negative feelings.
That's right. And when he came out and offered the love exchange, I just melted. I mean, it was just, and it took us probably, the whole thing probably lasted not even, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes, and then it was restored to what it was before that. So
we could write a book called 7 Minutes to Change Your Life.
Yeah. And one other thing, I just remembered, Ken had also made since we came back from the intensive, he agreed or made a commitment to do 1 worksheet a day for 40 days. Well, I think yesterday was the 40th day, but and I'm going to just maybe just support him in upping that if he feels moved to do it. Just open it out. But yesterday he came home and he said, I just had this revelation when I did this worksheet. He said, to be honest, I've been doing them every day. A lot of times I feel like I'm just going through the motions, but this one, I could see how I was holding this expectation of this person to behave in a certain way. And if he didn't behave this way, I'm angry and it's because of him, but I can see it's my expectation. It's all in me that is causing this whole thing. He just had a whole revelation of it. He said, I just never saw this before. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, so I want to share that too.
And that's precisely what we're inviting people to use the tools on a regular basis for, because you will develop strengths and abilities and insights that the average person just has access to because they aren't willing to do what it takes to produce that. Dr. Tim talks about his buddy. His name's gone. Guy Finley. There's a great story that Guy Finley tells, and Guy is just this awesome storyteller, and he tells a story about this guy who's coming out of town and goes by his buddy's new business, and his buddy's just putting up a sign, handmade wooden chairs. And he congratulates his friend for going into business. He says, I'm going to be back in town in 6 months. I'll see you then. So 6 months later, he comes back to town, and the first place he goes is to see his buddy, how his new business is doing. And his buddy's in the process of changing the sign. And he's taken down the sign that says, handmade wooden chairs, and he's putting up a sign that says handmade wooden furniture. And he says to his buddy, well, what happened to your chair business? He said, I just found that I wasn't very good at making wooden chairs and working with wood. And he says, well, in that case, why are you doing handmade wooden furniture? He said, well, I just thought I'd try again and hope it would be different. And most people try again and again and hope it will be different and aren't willing to do anything differently, And the willingness to do something different is such an awesome step to make, to step out of the old family feeling and the patterns, and the willingness to do it differently, to function as a true human being, or as Yeshua said in the ancient teachings, as a child, is pretty awesome.
Yes. And I just want to thank you again for your work and the privilege that you afforded us, everyone, to gather in Palm Coast for that amazing intensive. It was the most important point in my life, I think, really.
That was a fabulous 9 days. Actually, both of those intensives were amazing. To do 2 intensives like that back to back, 2 Y intensives, was pretty powerful, and we're looking forward to doing one of those come July. I think July 23rd we start another 9-day at Heartland. So
yeah.
That's our summer program, and of course we're going to start out the summer on July the 12th with a 10-day food fun forgiveness and work program for anybody that's interested in taking your work to the next level. That's kind of an economy program. We're going to have Chef Ari there, and he's going to do some awesome new things with food. We'll do some work projects around the property to get the property ready for the intensive, and in the evenings we'll do classes. We'll be doing at least 2 mind shifters and still point breathing sessions in that 10 days. So anybody that wants to do an economy program, that whole program, 10 days, is with food, accommodations, workshop materials, and of course the work up 50. And then we're going to have a day off, the 22nd and the 23rd, start with a 9-day Y, and then a 9-day teacher training. So it's going to be our summer at Heartland this year. For anybody that's interested in playing, and if you want to inquire about that or you want to get a more detailed look, you can jump on the website and look on Heartland Intensives or intensive information, and that'll tell you all about it. But it is it's amazing what happens in that space of 9 days, isn't it? It's just mind-boggling.
It is. It's wonderful. And before I hang up, I wanted to ask, when I was telling you this story about my daughter in the kidney stone episode and my feeling of responsibility toward her, but you said maybe I felt to blame. Is that something that you've intuited I should look at? Because that never really.
Well,
I guess
it wouldn't hurt to look and see if
okay.
that's a component. I was just wanting to distinguish, because a lot of people use the word responsibility. What they really mean is guilt, fault, blame, wrong. And so
yes.
I was just clarifying that if that was so, then you would probably benefit from doing some work around if there was guilt, fault, blame,
okay.
or in that regard. And if there wasn't, then of course no big deal. But it might be worth a worksheet or two to just investigate and see if there was a component of that. And
yeah.
A lot of times parents want to be what they call responsible for what their child is doing, even decades later in their lives. And what it really is the inadequacy that the culture teaches us to have about parenting and how our mistakes have scarred and all of sorts of things, rather than allowing each person to literally, truly be responsible for themselves and do our work. We open space. They can do the same.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Fabulous.
Tim. And happy anniversary and happy eternal birthday, Jeannie. Take care.
Thank you. Jeannie's 5. The name? Say hello.
Hi, it's Margaret in Boca Raton, Florida. Hi.
Well, how are you, young lady? Welcome.
I'm fine, thank you. And I wanted to give you all a call and let you know that we got together with our group last night, and we had one new person, and we thought it was pretty powerful because this person has done a lot of work in the spiritual realm in different areas and practices Buddhism and a lot of ancient Asian thinking, I guess, and even like Qigong. And at any rate, they were able to understand this much better than most of us, much better than I did when I first heard it. And he actually found relief in doing the worksheet. He said he felt much better, and it was really nice to see. And and everybody else who is learning the process, we all found it very helpful last night and made some progress.
Awesome. Was there any particular point of learning for everybody, or or particular opening that might inspire other people who are listening to say, okay, I'm going to pick up those worksheets and use them?
Well, for me, the most powerful moment was our 16-year-old that's in the group. I think she really, truly came to understand that forgiveness really is about removing this corrupt data inside of us, so removing that fear and hostility rather than letting the other person off the hook. And because she started to say it, she started to say, well, how am I going to forgive them? And then we had discussion about it further, and I think that she totally understood the difference now. And so to me, that's pretty powerful for a person to realize, wow, I'm going to be able to clean this up inside of me, and no matter what else happens, I'm going to be fine.
How different would all of our lives have been if at 16 we'd understood that piece of information?
I know. I think that would have been amazing. I know. I wish I had been granted that.
For sure. Me too.
She came up and gave me a big hug later, and I think to myself every time I see her how wonderful. I wish I had been that fortunate.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, that's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I know Dr. Hayes is on the line, and I just want to mention, Dr. Hayes, I want to tell you that I listen to the radio show every day. Generally, it's later on at night when I'm working out, and I always learn something new listening to you, and I always enjoy hearing you speak, and I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate you, because you may not know I even exist, but I am always listening.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to know it's useful. If you're listening in while I'm learning, that's a great bonus.
Yeah, and I'm learning every day. No, I appreciate everything. Also, I just want to mention, our Mind Shifters work group meets every Wednesday, and we meet at Dr. Love's Home and Business, and it's 365 Northeast 5th Street in Boca Raton, Florida, 33432. And people are always welcome, and it's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Wednesday.
Fabulous. Well, we appreciate you guys carrying the work on, and isn't it wonderful? I love how Richard Bach put it. He said, we teach best that which we most need to learn, and isn't it amazing how our experience of the work deepens as we offer it to someone else?
Absolutely. It's true. By giving it away, it strengthens it within me, and I think it's a really beautiful thing. I'm so grateful to have this in my life.
Cool. Fabulous. Well, Michael, has he got anything to share?
I apologize. I did not hear that.
I was asking if Michael was there and if he had anything to share with this group last night.
He's not available. He's in the tub right now. He's trying to soothe a few aches and pains he has, and he's off duty at the moment. But I know he would love to talk.
We'll be holding his back in the precious space of love.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Lots of love and blessings.
Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
954, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Pamela, this is Nene.
Aha, I had a suspicion it would be you, young lady. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. So nice to hear Margaret. She's becoming more and more of that awesome, beautiful person she is. I mean, I love listening to her. Really awesome. Well, I want to share something very, very nice in reference to canceling the goals. And today I went to a friend's house at an office I'm starting to invite other people to come into the Latin group. And we start talking, and he's my friend Eugenio, he's telling me that he's listening to The Secret. And we start talking about energies. And then all of a sudden he says, I would really like your input in this. And he explains that he's starting to date somebody, but for some reason she's very explosive. And whenever they disagree on something, she picks up her purse and leaves, or wants to leave. And then he starts to calm her down and this and that. So I tell him, well, perhaps, Eugenio, there's something inside of you that it's attracting that energy, and, tell me a little bit more about that. He says, no. I am calm person. I am completely, committed. I don't want these kind of people in my life. I want to have a very supportive partner. I want to get married again, but I would like somebody tender and supportive. Okay. So I invited Eugenio. Said, Eugenio, I invite you to cancel your goal to have a loving, supportive wife in your life. Let's do that. He said, canceling? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do this exercise. So we did it. And I said, I invited him to breathe, and we breathed together. And he became very calm. And then all of a sudden, he started telling me all the situation, the previous wives and the roommates, how explosive they are. And then he said this phrase, and I tell my girlfriend that if we both engage in being explosive, I can be very explosive. And after he said that, he looked at me, realizing that he realized for the first time that he had that energy inside of him. So
right.
it was tremendous.
That will change his life for sure. As you were speaking, you reminded me there was a physician who specialized in treating cancer, and externally a very loving man and really cares about people. And I'll never forget the first worksheet that he did. We introduced him to it, and he went through a worksheet. And what he said after he went through the canceling of the goal, inviting Ruka to go to work, he said, I just don't believe this. He said, I'm seeing that underlying so much of my life is rage. And it was totally and completely oblivious to him. And, of course, as a result of that, he had experienced drawing lots of rageful people into his life. And it's just interesting to see the impact of the forgiveness process and how it introduces us to parts of ourselves that we have been totally and completely unconscious of and have defined us to such a great degree that our whole lives are run by them. So it's always pretty awesome to watch somebody who makes that kind of a breakthrough and starts to shift and change.
Yep, so I'm very happy. So he called 2 other people and forward the invitation, and today, Thursday, we have the Latin support group in Coral Springs, 7:30 to 9:45. Everybody's invited.
Very cool. That's awesome. We're glad that you're carrying it on in the Spanish community and in the English community, 2 different support groups. You'll be skipping tomorrow night in Boca, but on next Friday you'll be doing a group, and so that's awesome and fabulous. And we'll look forward to hearing the results. Hopefully, we'll hear from you tomorrow, and you'll have some amazing breakthroughs there. And we appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. And then tonight I'm going to talk about the stress and the goals and how important it is to cancel. So the conversation with my friend this morning was just, opening even more the idea of canceling your goals.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, Michael, if we're in the Course of Miracles, where is that you find the description of bruja? Because I would like to look for it in Spanish.
Well, there are many different places where it speaks of the function of that power. I'm not sure offhand where you'd find a definition. You can, go online and you can download the course. In electronic searchable format, so you might want to do that. I'm not sure where you can get it, but if you Google it, you'll find it. You can download it on your computer, and you can just do a word search. And of course, since the course uses our Holy Spirit, it doesn't or active. I think if you wanted to do that, you'd probably be able to get what you're looking for pretty quickly.
Okay, well, thank you. Breaking up a little bit, but thank you so much. And hugs and everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, blessings. One of the things you trigger with that, May, as you ask about that, Rukud Kudsha, the Aramaic, for those who are not familiar with it, translates as an actual elemental force in us that, when invited into activity, under the effect of our errors, teaches us the truth. But you have to invite it into activity. And there's an awesome passage in Course in Miracles about making that invitation. And then it speaks about what happens when you decide there's a part of you that you don't want to have exposed to that power. And it says, exempt no one from your love, or you will be hiding a darkened place within your own mind where Ruka's healing power is not welcome. In other words, it's all done with smoke and mirrors, and what the forgiveness process does. Never anywhere on planet Earth have I run into one person who, before they ran into this work, was told that forgiveness is about removing content from their own mind, accessing and removing content. Virtually everyone who's doing so-called forgiveness work is talking about how they let themselves off the hook. Now, they talk about benefit and all that, but it's all based in forgiving yourself, where what the actual Aramaic forgiveness process does and why it's so powerful, why everybody who's called and shared an experience doing that, is because those darkened places within our own minds where that Holy Spirit or that higher power, that Rukudakuda's healing power is not welcome, is covered up by our denial. And the only tool I know that reliably, consistently uncovers that hidden part and gives you access to it so that it can heal is the Aramaic forgiveness tool. Any philosophy, any highfalutin language, any wonderful story, any really sounds good way of living that doesn't include cracking open one's own dissociated mind is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You might have a better view of the ship going down. What we're looking to do is to reverse the whole game, where life, instead of moving in a downward direction into chaos, into hostility, into grief, into loss, into fear, reverses its direction and starts to move into humanness, into the active presence of love, into reliable, supportive dynamics within relationships, within business, within friendships, and that there is a conscious, consistent movement upward into something wondrous and awesome. That's the natural direction of a human life. So many people believe that it's going in another direction and that that's just the way it is because they have not yet taken hold of their human lives. And again, the way we define a human life is hold a newborn child. When you hold a newborn, you know exactly what human life is. We invite you into the direct experience of that human life 24/7, 365, and watch what happens. It's absolutely awesome. Well, Jeannie, do we have any other callers? Okay. Well, if we have another caller, unfortunately, Jeannie's computer has crashed, so she can't turn anybody else on the phone. Our apology if there is anybody waiting.
You've got 90 seconds, Michael.
90 seconds? Man, time flies when you're having fun. Well, Dr. Tim, do you have anything to share with us in the last 90 seconds? Or the last 45? Although we can't do the closure,
just it's absolutely wonderful. Once again, I want to reiterate that to hear the level of benefit people are getting after such a short time of exposure to the tools is very heartening. And we're on a regular basis getting testimonials in the support group. And so I would offer this as motivation for anybody or a little extra nudge for anybody who's been thinking about starting a support group. Dive in. It is remarkably easy to get fabulous results.
And, of course, it's remarkably easy because the tools simply work. If you use them, things change, that's all. It's absolutely reliable. We don't invite you to believe in anything. All we say is pick up the tool and try it. You don't have to believe in a race car to enter the race. All you have to do is turn on the ignition, put the car in gear and drive. There's nothing about believing there. You just do it. And as you do these tools, as you use these tools, the whole game of life changes.
So have the best year yet of your eternal life, and come back tomorrow and bring a friend.
Absolutely. Blessings. Thank you, Dr. Tim. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, great.